if you agree with the view of Islam and the indigenous South Africans, we'll have to agree that Nelson Mandela was a hero. Same person, same activity, but two different labels. Therefore, before giving any label to any individual, you have to first analyze for what reason was he striving, for what reason was he struggling, for what reason did he do that act. In the same fashion today, we find on the media, on the international media, mainly on the CNN, even on the BBC, we find that war on terror. War on terror. And there was a Hindu journalist from India who immediately after a few days, after 11 September, she wrote a very good article, and she said that we have learned from the Americans that pigs are horses, girls are boys, and war is peace. The Americans are teaching us that the pigs are horses, girls are boys, and war is peace. Inshallah, if time permits in the question and answer session, I will try and prove how terrorism in the name of Islam has been done by the media, inshallah, if time permits. All of us, or most of us, we have learned in school regarding the theory of evolution. The theory of evolution propounded by Charles Darwin. And we have been taught in school that the human beings have been evolved from apes. And Charles Darwin wrote a book by the name of Origin of Species, where he travels on a ship by the name of HMS Beagle and goes to an island by the name of Calotropis, and there he finds that the birds depict in niches, in holes, and depending upon the holes depict, the beak became short and long. So based on this observation, he propounded his theory of natural selection. We are taught in school, though the name is Darwin's theory, but we are taught as though it's a fact. But the name itself suggests that it's a theory. But unfortunately in our school, we are taught that as though it's a fact. I have not come across a single book which says the fact of evolution. All of them say the theory of evolution. And Charles Darwin himself, he agreed that he did not have sufficient scientific evidence to prove his theory right. And he wrote a letter to his friend Thomas Thompson in 1880, and he writes in that letter that I believe in natural selection, not because I have got evidence or proof, but because it helps me in classification, in rudimentary organs, in morphology. That's the reason I remember in school days, if we had to insult any of our friends, we used to tell him that if you were present at Darwin's time, Darwin's theory would have been proved right. Trying to insinuate he looks like an ape. In fact, there are many people who say that we can come to know from vestiges that we have been evolved from ape. In fact, today, most of the scientists have agreed that Darwin's theory has been proved wrong. There are 4 hominoids. The Lucy with the guide Australopithecus. Next was the Homo erectus. Third was the Neanderthal man. And fourth was Cro-Magnon. But there's no link at all that the human beings have been evolved from ape. According to P.P. Grasse, who held the chair of evolutionary studies in 1971 in the Sorbonne University in Paris, he said, it is absurd to identify our ancestors based on few vestiges, on few fossils. Even by molecular biology, according to Francis Crick, who's one of the highest authority in the field of molecular biology, he said, it is letting your imagination run too wild to assume that we have been evolved from apes. You may be wondering, why is Zakir talking about the theory of evolution? Has he forgotten that the topic is on terrorism, it's not on science? You may be wondering why is Zakir digressing away from the topic. In fact, there has been research done in the past few years, and according to research, many non-Muslims, researchers, they claim that the ideological root cause of terrorism is Darwinism and materialism. The ideological root cause of terrorism is Darwinism and materialism. You may be wondering, how can Darwinism, which speaks about the evolution of human beings from an ape, can be linked with terrorism? Most of us, we think that Charles Darwin is the first person who proposed about the theory of evolution, and after that everything is scientific evidence, scientific observation, scientific experiment. Everything was proven. In fact, Charles Darwin was not the first person who proposed the theory of evolution, and neither does this theory have any scientific basis. In fact, this theory of evolution, it is an adaptation of the philosophy of materialism. And this philosophy of materialism has got no scientific basis. And the theory of evolution proposed by Charles Darwin and the materialistic philosophy, it became popular. And because it became popular, the basic question which we always had in our mind, what is man? What is a human being? And the answer that we had initially, before these two theories became popular, was that the human beings have been created by Almighty God. And we have to lead our lifestyle according to the rules and regulations laid down by our Creator, Almighty God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But after these two theories became popular, the answer changed. That man came into existence by chance. And the human being has been developed in a fight for survival. The human beings have been developed in a fight for survival, and we came into existence by chance. And because of this philosophy has given rise to racism, to communism. It has given rise to fascism. And Charles Darwin, he had a misconception that this life we are leading is a fight for survival. And he said that the development of every living creature, every living thing, is based on this fight for survival. And the strong shall win the struggle, and the weak shall be condemned to defeat and oblivion. Charles Darwin believed that the development of all living creatures is based on the fight for survival. And the strong shall win the struggle, and the weak shall be defeated, and they'll be condemned to oblivion. And that's the reason the subtitle of his book, The Origin of Species, was based on natural selection. The other title he gave to his book was The Favored Races. He used this ideology, this philosophy, which he propounded for the animals and other living creatures, he used it to the human beings. And he said that even in the human life, there is a fight for survival, and the human beings have been developed from the animal, from the ape. We kept on getting developed, and now from an animal, we have become a human being. And he called that even today, the human beings are further developing. And he said that there is a favored race amongst the human being. And according to Charles Darwin, the favored race were the white Europeans. And the Africans and the Asians, they were not the favored race. And slowly, the African and Asians, they'll be defeated. And later on, they will become extinct. And only the white Europeans, they will survive. And because of Charles Darwin, he influenced many of the human beings to let aside the religious philosophies of human nature, etc. And that's how it gave rise to fascism, communism, and terrorism. And according to an Indian anthropologist by the name of Lalita Vidyarthi, she says that Charles Darwin influenced the social sciences in the 19th century. And by the second half of the 19th century, the Europeans, they agreed and they started believing that they